Good morning, everyone. I'm kind of laughing a little bit. I'm looking at these S&P numbers, and I think kind of ridiculous, but it's good. I'm going to double check them before we get there. But yeah, we're seeing some real fear now, which is good. I'll get to the charts in a second, but the idea of today's slide, right? Now there's fear of getting out. Can they get out? Which is good. We go back, and I said on the 28th, those social media, you could see this slide. So the slide on 10/28 was fear of missing out, FOMO, triggered yesterday, and that's not good. And when was the 28th? A day before the high day. What we were observing, let me put the charts up. What we were observing at that time was the acceleration to the upside, and screen there was that acceleration to the upside on this day right there. And the next day was the high. Not that we knew it was likely that it was going to correct and it was starting to go sideways. And now we had we call it green bar ignored, um, where there was this attempt to go up that got rejected. And so yesterday was, let me get the hell out, right? And it stopped at 6,700 thereabouts. You can see just above that. So we always look at that whole numbers. We talked about the open interest in puts and calls there, and it wind up holding. And so it's pushed into that support level. And we're getting closer to where buyers should want to step up within an uptrend. So we'll see if it's a little lower here. And I suspect wherever it goes down, if it spikes down, depends on how much it spikes down. If it comes down to here to the 50 MA, where this little bar is right here, I'm referring to it as a poke bar because it's not a pivot. But intraday there was a sell-off and it popped back up again. And intraday, if you look at your charts, there'll be a pivot low, some kind of a big reversal down there. So this would be an initial downside target if that's in the cards today. To keep an eye on that. And yeah, these option strikes for today, just looking at the quotes again. Yeah, it's down there at 65, 65, 60. Let's just put this over here for now, right? That's our major support, the pivot low prior to a higher high. But it shouldn't get down there, not today, that's for sure. Let's just see what today brings in any event. Um, Let me just pull this down too so you can just see 65, 60. It's not going down there today. I mean, it would be insane. It would be like a crash for it to go down there. But yet those are the puts that are being bought at the extreme level that we look at, which changes day to day. And you know, they're buying them, thinking that it's going to go down there today. That's the great thing about this instrument. It gets out of whack now. The top side is just double checking because these things move around a lot. Yeah, it's coming down a little bit. So the market must be inching a little bit lower. I'm speaking 60. No, why that number's like that. 75. I probably fat fingered it when I was doing it before. Yeah. So there's the numbers for today. Let's see where these markets are at. You see they're a bit lower overnight. So I always look at my cursor to see where it's at there. And it's not at that little poke bar yet in the 50 MA. Now, I look at my chart and I'm like, if I'm thinking about a short-term low where I'd want to see a reversal to go for long today for at least a day trade, it's going to be down there. That would be the place where I would say, okay, that's, you know, kind of a no-brainer. Is that it's fallen from here, this day up there, when we was saying the fear of missing out day and falling all the way down to here, while it's not a significant support level, I mean, it is a pivot low, falling down that far, over the course of about 2 weeks, I'd be looking for, 5-minute chart reversal, breakdown failures, W bottoms, whatever forms um, that would suggest a bounce. And down here, that's just not in the cards today unless some stupid news comes out. And that would be amazing to see that happen. But if it was down there, it's not going to go down there. You're saying like you can bet your life on it, which we're not going to do that. But if it was down there, it would be a buy, whatever's going on. So for today, let's see if it can get down there. And 666, set an alert. There's a little area right there, and the devil number. So that might come into play today. Just keep that in mind. 666 on that. All right. Qs, breaking lower. Where are they at there? Nothing of significance. You want to somewhere down there. The 50 MA got that same bar. A whole number 600 would be quite a distance for it to get down there today. This is what the 5-minute chart looks like. Some bad ticks there. Prices are stabilized for the moment, and just keep an eye on, watch for some kind of a whipsaw in the first 5 or 10 minutes. See what happens. IWM, I think that's got to go down there. It's almost there, so that's a significant support level. We had the 180 reversal continuation pattern. This is major support, give or take. We'll just see if it holds or not. Great. Thanks for letting Trent. Oh, cool, Robert. Yeah, so that was recorded. It's in the Zoom thing, and we'll get that out to everybody. Um, and yeah, it's got to be posted, so maybe we'll just send it out to the database. Probably everybody would like to listen to it. It was a great conversation, and what he did. Yeah. So it's definitely recorded. It's in the can, so to speak. We just got to put it together. All right. So yeah, IWM down on support, probably should bounce from there. And just simply look to the left, and we'll just see what happens. Look at the whatever kind of patterns form, and just really slow right now. See on the 5-minute chart. And the diamonds, where are they at here? Yeah, that's a continuation. And so when I see a pattern like this, you've got a failed buy setup. And prices come down to minor support or rising 20 MA. They make a turn, and you get something like this. This historically results in what I call a measured move, which would put it somewhere down here in the end. Now, I don't know if that'll happen. That's just one of those things that I've seen happen a lot over the years, where prices reverse in an obvious place and it fails in a nasty way, and it goes down to a next level. And typically the move is equal to first move down, which would put it somewhere down here. So we'll see by next week. We'll see where today goes, and then where we go from there today as to what actually happened. So right. See, well, things aren't moving a whole heck of a lot. Bitcoin so far is holding this support, which isn't that significant, but this is another reversal that happened where it's stabilized and it's failing, which would suggest lower. But let's see if it actually starts to break. Uh, Crude oil, just marking time here, not doing much. We'll just take a peek at the futures because that's what we do. Heading down toward that support. Set an alert. If you're watching it, great. We'll be watching it in the room today. You can see, the ES is right at the 50. Now, I don't put much weight on a 50-period moving average on the futures. Why? Because the majority are looking at the underlying and utilizing those moving averages. And so for futures traders, yeah, they'll be looking at this, but it's a secondary piece of information, more subjective, I would say, like any moving average is, as far as a reference point where a turn would be. But a 50 MA on a daily chart of SPX is going to be far more reliable than looking at as a reference than with the futures. But futures traders are going to look at that just like whole numbers. So it's on this little support there. Drag that over, and you can see this is where I have the horizontal line. And ideally, and what we look for is to look when the futures contract lines up with some support, and the S&P 500 also lines up with support, or whether you're looking at NQ and QQQ, we look for the alignment of the underlying with the leverage instrument and see how that comes together. This has got room to fall. So while it could possibly bounce, and it's a ways to get down there, and it's got to get through a whole number. But down here, and with this reversal from yesterday, I don't, unless some news comes out, I don't suspect anybody's want to get too aggressive on the long side unless they see a meaningful pattern to support that. Otherwise, let it come down here to where this support is to wait for a turn. And so we look at, I'll go back to the Qs and see, they're here down near 600. And what we'll do, like we did yesterday in the room, where as prices were coming down and we were looking for a level where the Qs would turn, we went and looked at the option table. And we looked at where there was high volume and high open interest, and that was 610. And then it got down there, buyers showed up. Eventually it was like, okay, there was the bounce and event back down and what have you. But those large open interest and high volume strikes in the broader markets, and you could do this in an individual stock, is useful information. So, and without even looking, which I haven't looked yet, I bet you there's a big open interest at 600. So if it gets down there today, if that's in the cards, it's a long way, but it's gapping down and there isn't much of anything to the left. So we'll see what unfolds. That's what we call the factory work. And YM got to come down lower, 50 MA against futures contract. It's not the underlying. All right. We looked at Bitcoin. Let's look at oil. It's not doing much of anything. We looked at that. And gold, just hanging out here. It's stable. Well, there is some buying in this area. There's not any real enthusiasm. The dollar's been strong. As this has come down, maybe the dollar begins to weaken for whatever reason. Yes or no? Just looking at, all right, so we're getting some kind of a bounce here in the euro. Just look to the left, folks. Get the bullshit off your charts, my language, but you know, this is so simple and it works. So a little bounce there. It's helping, dollar down, this down. Um, and I was gonna look at the pound, but I have to put it on there. I'm still getting set up at this platform that I moved to. All right, interest rates, not really doing much, but they had a big reversal yesterday, at resistance. And yeah, other than that, look, semiconductors, they're pulling back. AI, semis, all the weakness, a lot of room to fall. So it looks like, yeah, the markets have room to get down to where buyers are going to really want to step in. And institutions with big positions, they're like, how am I going to get out of this thing? Where they poured into it up here, hand over fist. You're missing out. Now, of course, if the instrument is liquid, they can. But idea is at some points they all want to get out and we get the flush and the whole process starts over again. And that's what we'll be looking for, into next week. All yours, Dan.
Morning, happy Friday. Zero DTE day. And Greg summarized it great. But in option terms, my bias is going to be put spreads once we get intraday sell off and stabilization. That's it. We've got extremely light inventory. We've been playing defense. But yeah, I mentioned this major move yesterday on that failed green bar there. EMPH, Thomas. I'm assuming you're talking about a 1, 2, 3 and a downtrend, but I'm not sure. So you got to be more clear. It's just not quality. I got a bearish bias, so I surely don't want to be swimming upstream here on mediocre patterns. Oh, you're saying short. ENPH short. That's not quality either, unless just a scalp. But you're shorting into a power. It's just not quality to me. This, you're late to the party. It's gapping down 45 cents. I mean, look how extended that is on the 15. It's not quality. And do y'all remember yesterday I said, don't be insulted when I turned down most trades yesterday. I didn't put on a single new trade myself, swing. So I'm probably gonna have the same bias here today, at least on the swings. Yesterday was a total day trading environment. I just had an alarm on BIP here, 1, 2, 3. This probably was an earnings trade, but look, 1, 2, 3 in an uptrend. So BIP looks good. I got a couple, recently there's been a ton of nasty gaps. These are from yesterday, PTC. That's possibly a wide range ending climb. Let me set an alarm. Set an alarm at 176. There's no good options, but that would be a beautiful day trade. 30-minute high, above 176. Let's go below is on my list. This was yesterday, a nice oil stock. And look, 15 is holding fantastic. So that's another 30-minute high idea. Pelletier, one of these AI stocks. Remember, I was asking in the green room also, does anyone know the news of what got the market in a bad mood yesterday? Because I don't watch news, but the media is always trying to talk about something. fill in the blank. And, I saw later in the day, it's AI valuation, and the newspapers were talking about that again. That, so Pelletier is one of those high valued AI. This was earnings gap down 171. I would have loved for this to gap down to 165 for a day trade put spread, gap and snap, but look, it's just grinding. I do not fade a 15-minute bearish chart like that. These are earnings now. Open. It's a nasty gap in the middle of no man's land. I don't like those. Archer 770. And this is competitor Joby. So it's a big gap, but no pattern. Now, remember these high flying sectors, the critical minerals, the nuclear, gold, silver. There's so many stocks that climb those. And look, this I ran with one of them. I said yesterday, 180 breakout failure, climb a weekly, monthly. So this is a beautiful 0DTE call spread idea if there's any juice. Over yesterday's high. Soon. No pattern. It looks like it needs to come down here. Duncan's. Yep, quantum stocks, yep. Yep, yeah, what was that one I showed Greg yesterday? Has a U in it. Thing when it was up 300% and did 100% retracement. It was a critical mineral stock, something UACR or something like that. USAR. Is that it? Yeah, here you go. Look at my memories. It's excellent. Look at this igniting breakout, went to the moon, and now greater than 100% retracement. Look at that pain. All right, Duncan pain, but no pattern. This I mentioned a double bottom, kept up, but it's up a bit. Piton flat, no pattern. That would be a bear 1, 2, 3 SMR. Now this is the nuclear. Look, another 100% retracement. That's looks lower. Sounds support, but looks lower. There's another one, Mike Papo. Look at all these things getting killed. $50. Could this be a 0DT put spread? Maybe, but it's not quality now. Oh, there's UASR. I didn't know that earnings. I guess that's what made me look at it yesterday. Yeah, I'll watch you. USAR could be a 30-minute high put spread. Wow, this thing was at 49. Trade desk, now it's getting whacked. No pattern there. SanDisk, one of the few positive stories here today. No pattern. Yeah, it's close to being a climb but I got enough to look at. Run would have been a bullish pattern if it opened flat. Then I would have bought yesterday's high. Now it's gapping down, it's destroyed, but no pattern. And that's in the solar tan sector. Tan's been on a tear. Look at that. That's a 1, 2, 3. But now the gap's making it a deeper tracement. Old Munster Mash 70. Now, if this were gap, I always do this, you all, just for learning. If this were gap in the 68, then that would be a beautiful day trade and put spread. But it's gapping up here now. 70. So it's too big. Firm. 70. It's too early, but it could be the start of a breakdown failure. AAOI, $25. I'd prefer if it were gapping at 22. XYZ. I'm gonna put this in the big nasty gap category. Possible day trade, put spread. Airbnb 126. Sam, I think did an earnings trade on this. Either short put or short strangle. Either way, you got a great trade there, but it's a condor pattern. So if you can do a 0 DTE condor, or maybe even condor for next week, but I need 30 to 60 minutes of data before I do it. Pattern, LIDAR, this is what they put on cars. Stone, gapping down, nothing. Glen, $2 stock. Ah, this was one I was hoping it would gap down as a gap and snapper. But now it's gapping up too big, so let's move on. EOG, I said potential bottoming pattern, 30-minute high. There's a put spread, 0 BTE. Gen, I said if it opened flat, you could short it. Look at the railroad track 20 and 50. The gap's too big. Dropbox 30, 31. There you go. There. Hey, this is the best looking gapper yet. Gap into the top of this with a void to 31.50. Let's put that here. That's the best looking gap setup I've seen so far. This I said you could short the week's low, or if it had a bullish gap up, would have been long. And these silver stocks, a lot of them look like this. But it's opening. I don't know. You can set an alarm week's low if you want. Laser. Their gap's too big for me. Grinder. Sam is on the board of this company. Gap in the resistance. No pattern. Frog animal sector 56.50. Gap's too big but bullish. Tandem. Now this is a big gap, but it has support on a pullback. So this one I'm going to keep on my list. If it could stay above 15 and give us a controlled setup on a pullback. Pertawi asking about Wendy's. I guess he's hungry. Wendy's. Yeah, gap's too big, but yep. Says earnings 11.7. Yeah, so that's an earnings trade. Yep. All right, let's look at this BIP. I had an alarm go off. All right, so BIP, let's watch a pullback. It's XYZ. I have excessive gap. So BIP, let's put him down here. And that, I don't, that's the only alarm. This over Wednesday's high, put spread idea. City, junk, a T2, excessive gap category. And look, it's already ripping here. I don't trade earnings in the first 5 minutes, but that's a big bar in 1 minute of trading. But the horsemen are weak here, so you know, obviously it's on its own page. Alex, I'm still watching this KMB, but you know, I said yesterday I'm in no rush. I would actually like it to close with an inside bar like this. And then we could buy it. Buy it on Monday over the high. I'm still gun shy here for swing longs as I was the last 2 days. As you can tell by the frequency of Telegram and the open trades. Putting an order out on something. Oh yeah, Apple was showing amazing relative strength yesterday, but you see, Alex, what kept me out of it was the broader market. And when you entered it, it was, I said, remember, I said you could get a better price on a pullback. So even if you bought it there, it went up and up. I would have stopped break even or whatever. All right. So this bit bottom right, this Expedia, wow, that's excessive. Yeah. Win junk, Cenex. It's moving, but no Boyd. That was Wednesday's MT live Lloyd. See, so that's a power bar, but no Void on whatever that was. Wow, this thing's on fire. WPM would be a 94 put spread if there's anything. I will look. Yeah, Apple's ugly, Tesla cracking, Microsoft stable, Netflix stable. 94 is 0 by 75. Jerk. Netflix, I'll set an alarm at 11:01. This could turn into a 0 DTE put spread. All right, so it's a sloppy W bottom, new low plus. I just don't think it's going to bounce very much. That's why I said put spread only. Groupon, dog, Nitra. Ah, there's a bear gap that bullies. GMAT on fire. So that and Expedia are the top performing gappers. This it looks like a bottom. This could be a 0 DT here. RBA 96s. There's no weeklies, and the 95s 0 by 330. Abgo alarm. That's our only open. Ah, shoot. You all remember I was saying, should we kill this break even yesterday? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. It's always the discussion. I get out of things early, but I I just love break evens over losses. Heck, yeah, that's way too far from the 20 to be buying in a weak market. Absolutely not what I just that made my trading plan. Remember, I want something close to support in the 20. And that's when the market's acting bullish. Market is in a tantrum mode right now. So I would have to put a big old veto on that idea. For me, at least. Actually short 141 puts on this thing that I totally forgot about like an idiot yesterday. I have a nice profit, but it's spready, so he's being a jerk here. You know, trying to get out of spready option trades when it's going against you is not a fun situation. I feel that $11.